time looking for Cuba while listening to its most famous song, the story of a man from a quiet little town where the tropical mountains meet the Caribbean, a place called Guantanamo. But when you say the name now, a different image comes to mind of a terrible prison where torture techniques are refined and terrorists, and many non-terrorists, are being held indefinitely by our government. And it's the perfect spot for such extra-legal activities since it's not on our shores and therefore not subject to messy questions involving the Constitution. Of course, the Cubans have been asking us to leave for 45 years, but we won't. And we have the military might to continue to force ourselves on them, and we do. Just as we imposed our power on the Cubans at the beginning of the 20th century, when the Rough Riders went up San Juan Hill in Santiago, just down the coast from Guantanamo, and ended the Spanish-American War and created a treaty without the input of the Cubans, which gave us the right to forever impose our presence on this island, whether they like it or not, which they don't. Guantanamo is a terribly costly outpost to maintain since nothing comes from Cuba and must be brought in by boat or by plane. It serves no strategic purpose anymore, but was maintained after the revolution, first to keep the Russians off guard and then to defy the Cubans. Now it's home to the world's terrorists and might-be terrorists. One thing you can't say about Guantanamo, it is secure. U.S. and Cuban navies patrol the seas. The U.S. base is heavily armed and surrounded by U.S. minefields, which are surrounded by Cuban minefields, which are surrounded by the largest Cuban military force on the highest alert level. It is one of the last great examples of American imperialism, and now a place where American laws and ideals were being ignored by a few in the name of the war on terrorism, which the Cubans certainly had no part in. And with two enemy armies facing off, this remains one of the world's great flashpoints. The U.S. has other locations where it could do this same business. Closing the base and getting our military out of Cuba would end a 100-year-old occupation and give this place back to those who belong here.
Guantanamo is part of Cuba. It's land that belongs to an island. It's part of an island. It's part of Cuba. By keeping the base in Guantanamo, the United States is committing an act of colonialism. You don't have to be for Castro or against Castro, but just to know that a base, an American base, is there against the wish of the Cuban people is wrong. Guantanamo must be given back to Cuba the same way Vieques was given back to Puerto Rico, the same way the Panama Canal was given to Panama.